Somali hijackers demand compensation for the release of the oil tanker and its 8-man crew from Sri Lanka. Cabinet approves the establishment of a Millennium Challenge Corporation project unit in Sri Lanka. 5 state-owned business enterprises sign a statement of corporate intent with the Finance Ministry for a broad-based management. Attorney at law U.R. De Silva appointed as the 24th President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. Minister John Amaratunga expresses displeasure over the suspension of Sri Lankan Airlines flights to Europe.
Sri Lankan Airlines සේවය යුරෝප රටවල් වල නවත්තලා තියෙන එක විශාල පාඩුවක්. ඒකෙන් එන සංඛ්‍යාව අඩු වෙනවා.
A very good evening to all our viewers here in Sri Lanka and also those joining us from all parts of the world through our social media networks that's streaming our bulletin live from Sri Lanka. This is Primetime News live on Newsfirst. I'm Mahina Bongzo.
A very good evening. I'm Zola Outskun. First look at our developing story tonight.
In your developing story tonight, Somali pirates who commandeered an oil tanker with a crew of 8 Sri Lankans have demanded a ransom for the release of the vessel and the crew. Speaking to News First, Oceans Beyond Piracy says it has received information that the crew of the vessel, Aries 13, is safe. Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Harsha De Silva assured that all measures are being taken for the safe return of the Sri Lankan crew.
Yesterday, reports surfaced that the Aries 13 oil tanker with a crew of 8 Sri Lankans had been hijacked by pirates off the coast of Somalia. Monday's hijacking was the first such seizure of a large commercial vessel on the crucial global trade route since 2012. Abdurrahman Mohammed Hassan, Director General of the Puntland's Marine Police Forces, told Reuters by phone that its forces have set off to Alula, where the vessel was anchored. Puntland is a semi-autonomous northern region of Somalia, and Alula is a port town there where pirates took the tanker to. Aries 13 has left the Colombo port at 5:30 p.m. on the 28th of January in order to reach Mogadishu. It is now known that Nicholas Anthony from Colombo is the skipper of the hijacked vessel, while Sunil Pereira is the boatswain of the vessel. Jayanta Kalabovile is the chief engineer of the ship, and Janaga Semendra is the third engineer of the Aries 13. A. Shanmugam is also among the crew.
He usually calls us every day or we get a video call from him. We spoke to him on the 6th and 7th of March. He messaged my daughter and said that they were sailing from Djibouti to Mogadishu. It was only after we watched the news last night that we came to know that they have been hijacked. Please save him and the rest of the crew. Please.
At 2:29 a.m. on the 8th of March, 3rd engineer Dilip Ranavira, a resident from Wandrabagol, had made a phone call to his residence informing the occupants that he was heading to Mogadishu from Djibouti. We attempted to contact him, but our attempts proved futile. Premanath Ruan Sampat serves as the chief officer of the vessel.
We were told not to be afraid, that steps will be taken to save the crew. My brother got married recently. He was to leave to Dubai, but the company had told them that the ship will be crossing Somalia. On Friday, he called and told us that he will reach there by the 17th or 18th and contact us afterwards. Our only hope is that my son and the rest of the crew will be rescued.
Lairu Indunil from Akrasa Matra joined the ill-fated sailors as a trainee sailor. A UN shipping database shows the Aries 13 is owned by a company based in Fujairah in the United Arab Emirates, and the ship flew a flag from the Comoros Islands. Oceans Beyond Piracy said in a statement late on Tuesday the ship was carrying gas and fuel and was not registered with the Maritime Security Center for the Horn of Africa, which registers and tracks vessels in the region.
This is John Steed in Nairobi. The latest situation on the pirated vessel is that the vessel has moved overnight and is now travelled west and is anchored just off the coast in a place called Habo, X-A-B-O. We know that the crew is safe. The owner has spoken to the crew and the crew all safe and well, but as of yet there's no change in the situation and we're not aware of any negotiations that are going on at the moment.
We have been speaking to all relevant authorities, including the International Maritime Security Organization, respective navies, shipping agent, the crewing agent, the owners of the ship. Our ambassadors in both Ethiopia and Consul General in Dubai are in touch with the government of Somalia and their representatives in India. We know that the crew members are all Sri Lankan. We know that they are safe, and we also are fully aware of the current negotiations, and we hope that these will result in peaceful resolution of this situation as soon as possible. But we are completely on top of the situation.
So what happens now, the negotiations will now commence between the pirate negotiator on board the vessel, there's a pirate negotiator on board, and the owner of the vessel. So the ship's owners, they will negotiate the release of the crew with the pirate negotiator. They will have trained negotiators who will deal with the pirate negotiator. We haven't seen any visual contact of the crew on board the ship. Well, we had our warship, we have a flagship called, a Spanish flagship called Galicia. Our warship, our Galicia, was actually in the Indian Ocean. When the attack happened, the Galicia has turned around. She is now proceeding towards the ship that has been hijacked. So she is now proceeding towards it. When she arrives, we will put up the helicopter, and we'll be able to go and investigate the latest information. So hopefully we can put out more information once we get that. But at the moment she's en route from the Indian Ocean.
The Cabinet of Ministers granted approval to establish a Millennium Challenge Cooperation Project Unit in the country, which is an office that comes under the US aid program. The unit will be functioning under the Policy Development Office of the Prime Minister's Office.
Millennium Challenge Corporation is an agency that provides US foreign aids for minimizing poverty worldwide. The unit has agreed to provide an investment of $700 million to develop the fields of policy instability, access for land and transport, water and wastewater infrastructure, electricity and education for the economic progress of Sri Lanka within the next 5 years. Meanwhile, the future trade plans of the government were revealed at this press conference.
One Belt Initiative කියලා Xi Jinping ජනාධිපතිතුමා
Chinese President Xi Jinping is trying to recommence a Silk Route under the One Belt Initiative. Sri Lanka becomes its south gate. The most important matter is that India will receive an economic growth of approximately 6% and China will receive an economic growth of 7%. This means that these two countries will be the emerging economies in the world. When we reach an agreement with both these countries, both their markets will open up to us. It will be more beneficial for us. We hope to increase the production industry in the country together with China. Thailand also came in. We held discussions to provide 1,000 acres for an investment zone in this district. We will not give it to anyone. We will take these investments and use it for our benefit. We will develop the investment zones while the ownership will remain with the government.
In a story that is making the headlines tonight, the government signed a statement of corporate intent with several state-owned business enterprises at the Ministry of Finance today.
The objective of the Statement of Corporate Intent, or SCI, is to contribute positively to strategically important state-owned business enterprises in achieving Sri Lanka's economic goals. Thereby, the Ceylon Electricity Board, Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, National Water Supply and Drainage Board, Airport and Aviation Services Limited and the Sri Lanka Ports Authority signed the Statement of Corporate Intent. On behalf of the CEB, the SCI was signed by Dr. BMS Batakoda, the Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Energy, as well as DAS Vijaypala, the Chairman of the CEB. The Secretary to the Ministry of Town Planning and Water Resources, Sarachandra Sirivithana, and the Chairman of the Water Supply and Drainage Board, K.A. Ansar, also signed the Statement of Corporate Intent. The Secretary to the Ministry of Ports and Shipping, L.P. Jayampati, and the Acting Chairman of the Ports Authority signed the SCI with regard to the Sri Lankan Ports Authority. Secretary to the Ministry of Transport and Civil Aviation, N. Somavira, signed the SCI with regard to the Airport and Aviation Services Limited. The Acting Secretary to the Ministry of Petroleum Resource Development, S. Hettiarachi, and the Chairman of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation signed the SCI with regard to the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation.
දේශපාලනය කරන්නේ නිසා මං හිතන්නේ වැරදි මාර්ගයකට ගිහිල්ලා මේ හැම ආයතනයක්ම අවුරුදු
All these institutions have been heading in the wrong direction for the past 3 years due to politicization. Except for the airport, all the other institutions have been running at a loss. These losses are not 10 to 15 million. They are around 32 billion for each institution. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation incurs a loss of 56 billion if I remember correctly. That is the loss this year. What we want is to amend this and move forward without burdening the general public. This has nothing to do with the IMF. The expenditure of the Hambantota port is 19.7 billion, but the income is 200 million. This deficit has to be paid by the ports authority. It cannot be done. What we are trying to do is to decentralize the powers while holding on to the ownership. We want to ensure that the people are not burdened. We will not provide the ownership that is held by the government exceeding 51%. The Mattala airport is good, but if there are no flights, for whose use was it made? The peacocks? We will look for the solution before it comes to this point. We fumbled up in the paddy issue. We went in knowing that we are heading into a problem. We cannot let the CEB go on with losses during the drought, but we cannot stop providing electricity as well. We are trying to not burden the consumer.
ඒ වගේම පාරිභෝගිකයට බර දාන්නත් බෑ. එහෙනම් මොනවද අපි කරන්න පුළුවන් తాවකාලිකව. මේ වගේ වැඩ පිළිවෙල අපි කතා කළ කටයුතු කිරීම තමයි මෙවැනි ප්‍රකාශයක් තුලින් ඇති කරලා තියෙන්නේ. අපි මේ ගුවන් තොටුපළේ ලබා ගන්නා
We are paying the debts of the Mattala airport with the income of the airport here. More than 15 state-owned enterprises has not paid ETF and EPF. The Sri Lanka Transport Board had an amount of 12 billion rupees. We have taken the relevant policy decisions to strengthen the economic process of the country.
Minister of Tourism Development John Amartunga says the suspension of direct flights to Europe by Sri Lankan Airlines has had a harmful effect on the country's tourism sector.
Minister John Amartunga responded to questions raised by journalists following an event to deploy a new SLTB bus service to operate from Colombo Fort to Ragama via Hekitta.
ඇමතුමනි මේ වෙනකොට දැන් මේ වන රක්ෂණයේ රජයේ ඉදෙනුයි යම් දේශපාලකයෝ සහ ඔවුන්ගේ ආධාරකරු අල්ලගෙන යනවා. එතකොට ඔබතුමාලාගේ ඉඩම් අමාත්‍යාංශය මේ ගැන කිවරක් කරනවද?
ඒක බොරු කතාවක්. එහෙම අල්ලගන්න අපි ඉදිරියෙන් නැහැ. අල්ලගත්තොත් බෙල්ලෙන් අල්ලලා එළියට දානවා.
ඇමතුමනි ඉදිරියේදී සංචාරක ප්‍රවර්ධනය ගැන ඔබතුමාගේ දකින්න දැක්ම මොකක්ද?
It is the tourism sector which has the capability to generate the highest foreign revenue for the country. That has to be implemented properly. But there are several shortcomings right now. One is Sri Lankan Airlines, where it has suspended its flight operations to European countries, which is a massive loss to us. This has caused a significant drop in tourists coming into the country. We must recommence our flight services to those countries as quickly as possible. This is the only way in which we can attract a greater number of tourists to the country.
We have
taken decisions. They had brought this institute to the point of bankruptcy. When we took over this institute, it had been destroyed by the previous government. So now we have taken this measure to restructure this enterprise. We have recommenced these activities.
Private placements to raise funds for the government came under the spotlight when the Presidential Commission of Inquiry to investigate and inquire into the issuance of treasury bonds convened once again today. Today, former Superintendent of the Public Debt Department, Dhammika Nanayakara, provided evidence before the Commission for the third consecutive day.
A monthly board paper dated the 7th of October 2008 was produced before the Commission today by Attorney at Law Harsha Fernando, in which the monthly board approval was sought to issue treasury bonds on a direct or private placement basis to the EPF. It was revealed to the Commission that a handwritten note had been made on the respective paper which reads, quote-unquote, other captive sources, following which the final approval of the monthly board was for treasury bonds to be issued under the private placement method to the EPF and other captive sources. It was also disclosed to the Commission that other captive sources does not include primary dealers. It was revealed before the Commission that since 2008, the only approval given by the Monetary Board is to do private placements with EPF and captive sources and not to standalone primary dealers. Furthermore, it was revealed that since 2008, more than 80% of the government cash flow requirement, which was almost 800 billion rupees a year, had been obtained via private placements. The matter of issuing a primary dealer license to Perpetual Treasuries Private Limited was also raised before the Commission again today. The former Superintendent of the Public Debt Department, Dhammika Nanayakara, noted that it takes 3 to 4 months for a license to be granted for a primary dealer. Nanayakara was questioned as to why issues that were raised by the Commission in a single day of recording evidence were not seen by those who were involved in granting the license to Perpetual Treasuries Private Limited. Providing evidence before the Commission, Dhammika Nanayakara said that if there is a conflict of interest on the part of the primary dealer, it is the duty of the primary dealer to disclose it to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. It was revealed before the Commission that on the 13th of September 2013, the Public Debt Department was provided with the details of the 300 million rupees credited to the current account of Perpetual Treasuries Private Limited, and it was revealed that the 300 million rupees was a minimum capital requirement for a primary dealer. In addition, it was revealed that since it commenced operations as a primary dealer, that participation of Perpetual Treasuries Private Limited in the treasury bond market was minimal. It was also revealed that from 2014 until the 27th of February 2015, Perpetual Treasuries Private Limited would have been active in the treasury bill market. Meanwhile, President's Counsel Ramesh De Silva made an application to the Commission to represent former Governor of the Central Bank Arjuna Mahendran on the grounds that Mahendran considers it desirable to be represented. Meanwhile, former Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Arjuna Mahendran, appeared before the detectives assisting the Presidential Commission of Inquiry to investigate and inquire into the issuance of treasury bonds to provide a statement for the fourth day.
Well, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea, Yoon Byung-se, who is on an official visit in the island, met with his Sri Lankan counterpart Mangala Samaraweera today. Incidentally, it is the first visit of a Korean foreign minister to Sri Lanka in 31 years since 1986.
The visit marks the 40th anniversary of diplomatic relations between Sri Lanka and the Republic of Korea. The visiting foreign minister was accorded a ceremonial welcome to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Thereafter, Minister Byung-se held bilateral talks with Minister Mangala Samaraweera with the attendance of Minister Lakshman Kiriyalla and Deputy Minister Dr. Harsha De Silva.
Particular attention was paid to ways and means of further strengthening our bilateral trade and investment partnership, given the potential and Sri Lanka's location advantage. Also, I have expressed our sincere gratitude to the government of the Republic of Korea for its generous gesture of $200,000 humanitarian assistance in kind for the drought relief as the hand of friendship to Sri Lanka at this time of need. The Republic of Korea has truly proven that it is an all-weather friend to Sri Lanka over the years.
My government has decided to increase its current development cooperation, called EDCF cooperation with Sri Lanka, from the current $300 million to $500 million over the next 3 years. And also my government highly values the various efforts that the National Unity Government in Sri Lanka has been making towards national reconciliation, promotion of human rights, and reconstruction. In this connection, my country has every confidence that Sri Lanka will contribute significantly towards the ultimate peace, reconciliation, and prosperity in close partnership with the international community, including my own country.
The two foreign ministers signed a memorandum of understanding between the Bandaranaike International Training Institute and the Korea National Diplomatic Academy. Subsequent to his meeting with Minister Mangala Samaraweera, Minister Yoon Byung-se called on Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe at Temple Trees. Minister Byung-se had expressed the South Korean government's willingness to invest in the fields of research and development, information technology, health and education in Sri Lanka.
3 members of the Rajapaksa family appeared in court today in relation to several matters.
Former Speaker Chamal Rajapaksa filed a writ petition with the Court of Appeal seeking to prevent the Urban Development Authority from taking over the land in which the CSN operated in Battaramulla without a justifiable reason. He filed the petition as the chair of the D.A. Rajapaksa Foundation and pointed out that the Urban Development Authority has in fact given the land to the foundation on a 30-year lease. The Court of Appeal, which took the petition into consideration, issued notices on the respondents, including the Director General of the UDA, to appear in court on the 5th of May. Former Secretary of Defence Gotabaya Rajapaksa appeared before the Colombo Chief Magistrates Court today in relation to a case filed by the Bribery Commission. The Bribery Commission filed a case citing that by permitting the avant-garde maritime services to operate a floating armoury, the state had incurred a loss of 11.4 billion rupees. Cases were filed against 8 of the respondents, and today they submitted their preliminary objections. The Attorney General informed court that counter-objections need to be submitted and oral presentations have to be made. Thereby, the case was postponed to the 29th of May. Former Minister Basil Rajapaksa appeared at the Colombo High Court today in relation to the case filed for misappropriating 29.4 million rupees belonging to the Divinagud department by using the funds to print 5 million almanacs during the 2015 presidential election. Basil Rajapaksa was released on a cash bail of 100,000 rupees and two sureties of 500,000 rupees each. Indictments were presented in the open court in relation to the matter, and the case will be taken up on the 24th of May. The case filed against 4 persons, including former Minister Basil Rajapaksa, for the misappropriation of 2.991 billion rupees belonging to the Divinagud department, was moved to the No. 1 High Court in Colombo. When the case was taken up today, President's Counsel Anil De Silva, appearing on behalf of Basil Rajapaksa, said, as High Court Judge Gihanth Kulatunga is also serving as a commissioner to the Presidential Commission to inquire into serious acts of fraud or corruption, his client is against the fact the case is being taken up before the said judge. Thereby, the case was moved to High Court No. 1. The case will be taken up again on the 29th of March. That is how it is. You can call it good governance. We will face it. We will not step back. We have faith in our attorneys.
Well, why is there a delay in enforcing the law on those who engaged in fraud and corruption during the previous administration? Well, this was a question that was raised by the National Movement for Power Devolution.
We know that Namal Rajapaksa has money in Dubai to the tune of $1,078 million. I have the documents. Another $632 million remain. Over a year ago, the government writes to Dubai requesting for the details of these funds. They respond by saying that the government of Sri Lanka must do certain things and announce that this is black money. It's been a year and the government has failed to do that. On one hand, they are sabotaging the activities of Parliament. There are lands all over. Why isn't action being taken? The people constantly question us as to why the Rajapaksas aren't being arrested. This is an issue for us as well. Back then, persons entered the Valikada prisons and killed people based on a list. Those in the list were pulled out and killed. What did the relatives say? They said Gotabaya killed their children. 4 commissions were appointed. Yet, the government has done nothing over the past 2 years.
Attorney at Law U.R. De Silva has been elected as the 24th President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. The elections of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka ended at 5 this evening.
Votes were cast at 75 centres island-wide. 14,000 attorneys were deemed eligible to cast their vote for the election. Secretary of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Attorney at Law Amal Randanya, said voting ended peacefully. It was revealed a short while ago that U.R. De Silva has been appointed as the President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. The appointment was officially announced by Additional Solicitor General Sohana Gamlath, who served as the returning officer for the BASL election.
Yesterday, MP Pandula Gunabodhana made a statement that the Pathfinder Foundation has made a proposal for the privatization of 18 state-owned enterprises. The Pathfinder Foundation responded to their statement today.
In order for the government to come out of this financial crisis, the Pathfinder Foundation has proposed the privatization of 18 state-owned enterprises to obtain $5.8 billion. They plan to sell the Hilton Hotel for $250 million, the Hyatt Regency Complex for $100 million, Watersage for $100 million, the Grand Oriental Hotel for $75 million, the UDA Rest House for $40 million, as well as Litrogas, Lanka Hospitals, the Hambantota Airport and Port, as well as the petroleum retail distribution. The estimated revenue is $5.8 billion. Selling of national resources as per one's whims cannot be justified.
තමන්ගේ අභිමත පරිදි ඇස්තමේන්තු වලට විකුණා දැමීම සාධාරණ යුක්ති සහගත වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
We firmly believe for a long period of time we have been advocating that the state-owned enterprises should be privatized because we don't believe in a highly corrupted political culture like Sri Lanka that them being owned and managed by the government will make them the most productive enterprises. Instead of they might become, they might lead to corruption, misappropriation of funds and overcrowding with political, whatever the party that is in power. Therefore, we have always maintained that let the private sector do what it can do best. Let the government do what it can do best, maintaining a law and order, providing subsidies where necessary, providing relief to the poor where necessary, but not to run businesses that can be better run by the private sector.
Former parliamentarian Gajendra Kumar Ponnambalam delivered the following statement to the 34th session of the UN Human Rights Council.
We said that the resolution only seeks to provide the appearance of credibility by providing some quote-unquote foreign involvement to what is, for all practical purposes, a domestic mechanism. We have also repeatedly been pointing out that the Sri Lankan state has no political will to provide justice. However, even those minimal obligations that were laid out in Resolution 30/1 on accountability have now been officially disowned by the Sri Lankan government. It is no lesser persons than the President of Sri Lanka and the Prime Minister who have been leading the efforts to disown the resolution. Under these circumstances, when a state clearly rejects the resolution and demonstrates no intention to abide by it, for the UNHRC to provide more time to such a state to implement it would seriously damage the credibility of the Council in the eyes of the victims.
Well, several events were held across the island today to mark the completion of the second phase of the Gammadda 100 Days Initiative.
The Gammadda program, which commenced island-wide last year with the aim of providing solutions to the plethora of issues that the general public face, received the support of many warm-hearted people. With their blessings and support, the Gammadda initiative went on to complete 200 successful days. The University of Peradeniya also extended their support to the success of the Gammadda 100-day initiative. The people who received drinking water, roads, bridges, anicuts, community halls and other amenities under the Gammadda initiative organized several events across the island to extend their blessings. Incidentally, the Vatamada Bridge, constructed in the Munaragala area, was also vested in the public today in line with the celebrations. The project was sponsored by the National Lotteries Board. An event to mark the completion of the second phase of the Gammadda 100-day initiative was also held at the Parandan Mixed School in Kilinochchi. The Gammadda 100 Days initiative was able to provide a clean drinking water system to the school. Incidentally, a group of Canadian MPs who are touring the country also attended the event. The Canadian dignitaries also made a contribution towards the development of the school. Residents of Akkarana in Kiran Batikalo also joined the celebrations to mark the completion of Phase 2 of the Gammadda 100-day initiative. Events were also organized in the Sansungama village in Polonnarua as well as in Isinbassagala in Anuradhapura to coincide with the 100th day of Phase 2. Residents of the Kahawathagoda area in Ahangama as well as Nelua in the Gaul district also organized events to mark the completion of Phase 2 of the Gammadda 100-day initiative. A ceremony was also held at the Kamdakkulya Samudrasana Viharya in Kalpitiya.
ගම්මතේ වැඩසටහනින් මේ ගමට සේරපු සේවාව නම් කියලා නිම කරන්න පුළුවන් කමක් නෑ.
මේ පොඩි ළමයි උනත් ඉස්කෝලේ යන්න හරි ආසාවෙන් යනවා.
මේක දින 100ක් 200ක්.
It does not matter if they have this for an entire 365 days, let alone 100 or 200 days. There is nothing wrong with it because the answer to the people's suffering lies here.
Sir, ඇති සෑම පවස නිව් ඇති දිවස ලෙන්ගතු සිරස ඔබට ස්තුතියි.
Well, in cricket news, Sri Lanka took on the visiting Bangladeshis in the second and final test match that was played at the Pisara Oval in Colombo. Now, Sri Lanka lead the test match series 1-0. By stumps on day one today, Sri Lanka had scored 238 runs for the loss of 7 wickets, with Dinesh Chandimal unbeaten on 86 and skipper Rangana Herath not out on 18.
Well, with that sports news, we wrap up this edition of Primetime News. Thank you very much for stopping by. Latest and trending stories. Follow us on our website, www.newsfirst.lk.
I'm Mahina Bangzo.
And I'm Joel Osgood. Take care. Good night.